With his latest speech about electoral interference, Trump has once again taken aim at China, and we are once again subjected to the media and expert narrative that Trump is soft on Russia and hard on China. Now, any serious commentary would point out that there needs to be a strict separation between the way you judge rhetoric and the way you judge policy. And the continued failure of paid experts who deliver their opinion for money to actually highlight this fact is always astonishing to me. In his first term, Trump notably was renowned as a pro-Russia leader, yet his government started the most anti-Russia policies since the fall of the Soviet Union at that time. And his actual policies towards Russia are not particularly benign at all, and they're a continuation of long-standing US geopolitical strategy to encircle and degrade Russia, which has been going on for time immemorial. However, let's focus instead on his anti-China rhetoric. And as much as it probably does relate to real-world moves against China because of their growing power, the main focus, I think, of anti-China rhetoric is for the to create a domestic environment of political repression. So we've had Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller talking about and releasing policy relating to left-wing so-called terrorism, using the most drastic terms and trying to convert left-wing activism into the sort of punishable offence such as was used against pro-Palestine activism in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. So what happened then was people like the Holy Land Foundation 5, who made charitable donations to help people in Palestine, were jailed for very, very long sentences because the government had rewritten the rule books such that charity became terrorism. Now, that may seem familiar to modern viewers who have seen this happening more and more recently, but it is by no means new. And they are trying to do it more broadly towards left-wing activism, and the Palestine focus stays there, obviously, but it's the thin end of a larger wedge. So the reason for picking on China is to create the sense that there is this powerful other that could be interfering in US politics. But I also think there is a really strong need to demonize China and keep its politics away from Western viewers, Western people in general, because I think that Chinese politics are very dangerous. So, for example, I think that obviously China is making great progress, and as long as you keep this sort of miasma of an imagined authoritarian state where, regardless of how much money your country has, you're living under the heel of oppression constantly, and fear, and darkness, which is often imagined physically if you look at any US cinematic or television portrayals of so-called totalitarian countries. They tend to show them as actually literally dark, with clouded skies and greyness everywhere. So, we have this sort of thing, it's a brainwashing technique to keep people from thinking about what's going on in China, and I think it's absolutely necessary, because as we're transitioning away from the distribution of wealth through labour because of the lowered market value of labour. These people want to bring in a universal basic income, but which would be it's Friedmanite universal basic income, where you're pretty much giving people essentially tokens to be used for consuming, so that that others can make a profit. So the other model is, of course, universal basic services, where you remove certain things from the realm of the market and you just provide it to people so they can live a dignified life without having to stress and slave and do things they hate in order to keep keep themselves alive. And of course, this is anathema to neoliberals. They believe in basically permanent permanent struggle in a way that is, let's face it, quasi-fascist. I mean, it is fascistic. Neoliberals are fascistic. They've always had an affinity with fascism, and this is they believe in that sort of that sort of ideology of sort of pseudo-Darwinist idea that struggle is makes for superiority rather than what it actually is. And of course, not only that, if you're talking about a system that's in the hands of an elite who, of course, what they actually do in reality is make sure that their wealth is generational. They make sure that their children are the winners of this game, and then pat themselves on the back for being genetically superior. So I just wanted to say that when we're looking at what Trump says, just remember that it's nothing to do with what Trump does. Um, and the whole China thing is, very much. We used to know the names of people other than the Chinese president. Now, nobody even talks about Chinese politics, and it's amazing that we could know, say, Zhou Enlai, for example, from back in the day. It's a country, it's one of the most, it was the most populous country in the world. It's now the second most. It is certainly arguably the most important country in the world. And we know one politician from there in general, and we have no discussion about their politics at all. And that's a very pointed omission from the Western media perspective, given given trade relations, given the number of Chinese people that live in a lot of Western countries. It's quite extraordinary. So bear that in mind whenever you hear Trump going on about China. So I think that my intended Trump impersonation actually ended up sounding a little bit like I was trying to be racist instead. So I apologize for that. I was trying to do Trump. Sorry. All right. I think everyone should apologize for trying to do Trump. Everyone, it's such a temptation, but it's a temptation we should resist. Okay. All right. Thank you.